had a $28,000 debt forgiven. And here is how it happened. Long story short, it was all God. It was all God. But if you want to hear the long story, I'm going to tell you the details. Back in 2020, we were all getting our unemployment, right? And I qualified for unemployment almost immediately because I was furloughed. So, after being furloughed, I no longer qualified for traditional unemployment. So, I started getting unemployment assistance from being self employed, right? 2020, 2021 comes along, and I'm thinking that I'm good. At the end of 2020, I received a large sum of money. It was about over 11,000, I think, at one time. And so the year went on, and so I'm using this money to build my business and to try to invest in things. I invested in courses, I invested in businesses, and I just kind of held on to it and saved it so that I would have enough money to last me throughout the year. I was in a really good position in terms of my finances, right? We're going on, and somewhere in the middle of 2021, I learned that I was no longer qualified for unemployment, and it just immediately stopped. There wasn't even a reason for it. It just stopped. Like, I wasn't getting it no more. And I tried reapplying, and they just kept telling me I didn't qualify for it. And shortly after that, I started receiving letters that I owed the money back. What? What? How does that even make sense? I owe all of this money back. They're telling me that I basically, because of the way that things ended with my job and how I left on my own terms, like things like that, right? Which I knew that I wasn't going back to my job. That was a given. But there were so many circumstances that presented themselves where I knew that being home, being able to have my own business was important for me at this point in my life. I was fighting back against these claims. I go through this whole process, I submit it, and they take it to court basically. So my previous employer takes it to court, and so it goes to court and it is basically determined that I did not qualify. When it came back, it told me that I owed all of this money back. And to make it even pettier, they sent me individual letters, at least 6 of them, showing all the amounts of money that I owed. And it all totaled up to over $28,000. How does something that was created to serve people in a time of need turn out to be something that they have to pay back later? Let's make that make sense, right? I'm sitting here thinking, man, I don't know how this is all going to work out. But when the letter came in, I felt God tell me so strongly to add up the amount. I prayed about the amount, and I resubmitted my claim to waiver the overpayment. And at this point, I actually have done this 3 times. I can't remember what happened in between there, but I've appealed it at least 3 times. So this is my 3rd time trying to appeal it, right? I send in the papers, and there's just something in me that was like, you know what? I think this is actually going to be it. This is going to be the time where it is going to be paid. I'm going to be forgiven for all of this. I submit the claim, and I give all of the details about why I felt like it would put undue stress, first of all, and it would undo everything that was necessary in the first place when I made the initial claim. I send it in and I let it go. I forget about it. I go about my life. I start doing other things. I go about my business, and I remember waking up and I heard the word forgiveness. And so the thing that's interesting about forgiveness for me right now and hearing that word is that I have been in this process of forgiveness all year. All year, I have been working on really forgiving myself, forgiving others, releasing bitterness and resentment, and not holding on and harboring all of these things that are too heavy for my soul to handle. Like, I just know I've just been crying and journaling and talking and crying again. It's been a lot of tears dropped from the beginning of this year till now. And so when I heard the word forgiveness, I was like, well, you know what? Okay, who I got to forgive now? What I got to forgive myself for? I already know the drill. Give me the rundown, God. Let me know. Place it on my heart. Let me pray about it. Let me let this go. I'm thinking that the forgiveness, hearing the word forgiveness, was for me. And I don't think that it wasn't, because in that moment I still went through that process of releasing it and letting things go. But as soon as I was done, I go downstairs and I see my sister actually told me, you have 7 letters from the department. I'm looking at 7 letters, and immediately my heart's like, oh my gosh, I know what this is. This is the decision. And so they sent it once again, 7 letters, super dramatic. And every letter said that I had, the amount was forgiven. The word forgiveness specifically was on there. And I just remember I couldn't even keep it inside. I was so excited because it was a few things. The first thing is that it proved to me that God really is, he is really going to stay true to his word. His word has to come to pass. I was able to see where I played my role and I allowed God to do the rest. That was 2. And 3, it showed me endurance, because I submitted that claim over and over and over, and I just knew that it was not fair. I knew that it was not fair, and I just knew this isn't mine. I'm not supposed to be the one responsible for this. And not because I don't believe in paying your debts, but because this is not a fair debt. This is unfair, it's unjust, and it's not right. Like, I shouldn't have to pay this back. I needed this money, and I did not falsify any records when I did this. I was honest in everything that I put on those things. And even that, and there's another point, is that it also showed me how he really honors when we do what we say, what he tells us to do with the money. And so remember, I told you, I wasn't just being frivolous with the money. I didn't do the crab boils and stuff that everybody's talking about. Like, I wasn't frivolous with the money. I bought some things that I wanted. I didn't just not get anything that I wanted. I'm not saying that, but whatever I was supposed to invest in, however I was supposed to use that money, I was obedient to it. And it felt crazy in the moment. And it didn't feel like I was seeing the return on my investment in that. But I knew, even when God told me in the beginning, when I first got that first big lump sum, that this is a gift to you. And from then it was like, this is not something that I'm supposed to have to pay back, because it was a gift. And so I wanted to make sure that I shared that, one, because I felt like it was necessary, and I felt like God was telling me, like, this is not something you should keep to yourself. This is not the time to sit on what I've done. But also to encourage you, because I don't feel that I'm the only person who's going to have stories like this, that there are going to be so many debts, especially the ones that were unfair, so many debts being released, being forgiven, specifically being forgiven. And I want to encourage you that that time is coming, and to be faithful, to be patient, and to endure, to pray, and to just trust God for the ability to remain faithful in what it is that he's telling you, and to remain hopeful. Do whatever you need to do to stay the course, because this wasn't even on my mind at the time. I didn't think about it until it came up, and I would even be hounded with letters, and they would always send them over and over again to remind me. And I just knew in my heart that this was not my debt to pay. That's my story, y'all. And I hope that it encouraged you to keep going, and I'll see you in the next one.